Okay. Dine Kala Nechnesses L'chuppah, Simen Kuchman Zion, Sif Dalid. So that basically what we're talking about is that before a woman gets married, because of what we call Dam Chimud, the buildup of love can cause her to stain. So that's why we got to be careful with every Kala before the wedding. So Dalid, Machsa Grushasa Tricha Lisper Zion Nikiyim. If a Machsa Grushasa, meaning he's marrying back his wife, needs to count Shiva Nikim. Even if he divorces her when she was pregnant and he decides to remarry her when he's pregnant. Meaning when she was pregnant from him. Right? Or he divorced her when she's nursing. If you remember, a few days ago we said in the old days women did not get periods when they were nursing. And he even decided to take her back when she's pregnant, which she's nursing, which usually means that there's no staining. But if he was over and he married her, anyways, before the keeping the 7 clean days in mikvah, then mutar l'siach they could have yichud to give him since he was together with her already. Sulay sakav yitzir kolchach, he doesn't have such a strong yitzhara. They can't sleep with each other. She still needs to go to the mikvah, but they don't have an issur yichud. Hey, you have to be very careful. Until the night that he wants to be boiled her. Right? Now this is obviously not talking about where she's a nida. So meaning, but for whatever reason, I don't know what the scenario would be. For whatever reason, they're not gonna have relations. Then they're not allowed to lay together. Because we're afraid that he's going to be Matzah Levatala. I'm not sure what the scenario would be, but fine. Vav, Hakonis is a psula, maybe if it's a vest night, maybe that. Hakonis is a psula, Baal Bilas Mitzvah. So somebody who marries a psula, a virgin, so he what we call it is Bias Mitzvah. That's the first time that she's together with a man. Vav Bisha Adam Shoshis Yorin, even if the blood is flowing. She can just finish the bia and he doesn't have to be worried about that it's dam nida. Like me, we learned yesterday that if a woman becomes a nida in middle of intercourse, so then he has to wait until he loses the erection and then he can pull out. He has to pull out ASAP. Here, he's allowed to stay inside her because the assumption is that the bleeding is from an external cut. After the bee is over, he has to separate from her and then she is Tameya, even though that blood is really from a cut, but it's a special chumrah by Dam Basulim. And even if not only that, but even if she doesn't see any blood, perhaps a drop of blood came out and got covered over by the semen, and we consider her like a pure nida. Fine. Zion. Basula Shalachar Beila Rishana Tavla. A Basula, after the first time that together she goes to the mikveh V'gam Beila Shnia Rosadam, and then she sees blood the second time, which is always a disaster. V'chem Papam Shlishi Ravi, the third and fourth time, Yesh B'zeh Sheila and Muteris Lishar Etzavayla. That's a big shaila, whether she is mutter to stay with her husband. All right, because like we said yesterday or 2 days ago, that if she sees blood 3 times from her husband after intercourse, then it could be that she has a chazaka that every time she has intercourse, she sees blood, in which case she cannot stay with her husband. Ches mutter libo basula b'Shabbos. It's mutter to sleep with a basula on Shabbos, meaning the initial time. Even though he may be making a cut on her, because that is it's not a problem because the blood is really. It's already out. It's considered outside the body. It's not considered like your standard cut. For anybody that ever learned ksubis, fine. It's a woman who has a baby or has a miscarriage. And there's 4 sifim here. Alf Yeledes ben sheyolda v'lad chai ben v'lad meis or Yeledes, whether she gives birth to a live baby or a dead baby, a filu nefel, even if it's a nefel, meaning it's a miscarriage. Afilu leiros adam, even if she didn't see any blood, Harei Tamei Tumas Leda, she's Tamei a Tumas Leda. Mitzad Adinim Haya Vlad Zachar, and Mitzad Adin, if the Vlad is a Zachar, he Tamei Shivas Yavim, Mishum Leda, she's 7 days, she's Tamei 7 days, Vachagach Yichad list per Zayin Nikiyim, and then she could count Zayin Nikiyim, V'titbal, and then she could be Tovelis. Vim Haya Nikeva, and if it was a girl, the baby was a girl, he hit Tamei Yudalid Yom, she's Tamei 14 days, Mishum Leila, V'achgach Sever Zayin Nikiyim v'Tevelis, and then she counts Zayin Nikiyim, and then she's Tevelis. I just, I don't know. I didn't chop that the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is saying that the 14 days you are not including the 7 clean days. I guess that went over my head. I mean, I think most say that it is included. Meaning you don't have to wait. Normally you have to wait 7 days for a boy and 14 days for a girl, inclusive of the 7 clean days. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is not saying that here. Right? He's saying that you need it besides. Okay, I don't know. I have to look into that. But yesh become shenogan she'en toiles toich arbarim yom lezacher or pay yom lenakeva. Some places have a minig. She doesn't go to the mikveh for 40 days for a boy, or 80 days for a girl. So 40 days for a boy. Many women don't make it. Many women don't get to the mikveh anyways because they bleed usually 3, 4, 5 weeks. Okay, makom shaminig hazehu muskam eitzel kulam, and when the minig is muskam by everybody, ein lahakol. Meaning, as long as that's the community minig, then you can't be made. Because there's a good reason for it. Not a good reason, but there is a little bit of a reason. Do not go what the Torah from your mother is. Don't go against it. In our countries, there's no minig like this to not be together for 40 or 80 days. And then you have in some places a minig, not to toivel until after 6 weeks for the zachar, but tisha shavuos, the nekeva 9 weeks for a female, kedaima, the menhagim elu, kaelu ein lo shum tam. There's no reason for that. Kvarnas patul bekilas kedoshas ayidei ga'ainim zal. Fine base. Yesham shetzarach lifrosh me ishtay lel mem aleph zachar. Some say on the 41st night from the baby, you separate. For a boy, Velel pay aleph lenekeva, 81 night 81 for a female. B'nei shaz ika chashasha, because then there's a chashash shema tira dam kamei b'shas vesta. For some reason, we're afraid that she might bleed that night, sort of like a vest night. V'yesh chokin, those that disagree. Abal nefesh yachash la'atzmai, and abal nefesh should be worried about for himself. If hapila suffix zachar suffix nekeva, and if she has a miscarriage and we don't know if it's a male or a female, yifresh lel mem aleph vilel pay aleph. You should be machmer to separate night 41 and night 81. Gimel. Isha shivila ezedavar. If a woman miscarries something, afilu ein b'tzuras vlad klal, even if it doesn't even look like a fetus, ela kamei chatichas basar, like it's a piece of flesh, or leather or skin, kudaimet. Tzirlach melasik esatz betumas leida nekeva. He needs to be machzik. She needs to be machzik herself with tumas leida nekeva. Oisasa shelas chacham, or she should ask a shalik because sometimes you can be makel. If she first miscarries the fetus and then comes out the afterbirth, right? Which is basically the placenta and the sac and etc. Then even if the vlad is a zachar, you have to worry about that maybe it was a female because of the shilya, because of the afterbirth. Meaning, basically, we don't know what's coming out. Or she could ask a shelas chacham. An isha, that it's clear to her that she's not pregnant. Right? Meaning, she wasn't together with her husband, and she knows that. And she's title to her husband. And then, within 40 days, she has a miscarriage. Right? We're not choshesh for later because we don't consider it a baby less than 40 days. So basically, if a woman has a miscarriage before 40 days from mikvah, then that's not considered a miscarriage. It would be nida if there's enough blood, but it's not going to be a miscarriage. Aval tmei nida, abafilu lay near a dam, and she's tmei nida even if there's no blood. Mistama hayikatsas dam ela sheneva. Today you have to ask because then it's not possible to have the womb open up without blood. So what he means is that if something thick comes out, Ramesha holds is about the thickness, 18 millimeters, about the thickness of a pinky. If something comes out of her, even without blood, then some say that, and that's the way we paskin, that we say that since the uterus opened that wide, it must be there was blood, and she lost the blood, and therefore she would be a nida. Okay, like we said in tonight's stuff, there is still something about having a miscarriage because we said Mashiach can't come till all the neshamas come out of what do we call it? Shebeguf, I think. Right? It's called guf, the room where all the neshamas are, and a miscarriage is also included in that. So there is a tayelis to a woman having a miscarriage. On that note, we should never have any more tsaras. All right. Have a good night. Fine night. We share Basuras Tovas.